Hey crew, it's Pitt and I'm back with some more Esoterica. Today we are diving back into the Theatrum Chemicum Brittanicum. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points brought to light by the text. It is not the format for everyone, but people do find value in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along as we continue our exploration. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above, in the box down below, along with the original source material, the link for my book where I teach you to do magic and to live responsibly, and the links to get in contact with me directly so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and why I say the things that I do. With that being said, we are going to dive in and continue our exploration of the Theatrum Chemicum Brittanicum with Gate 4 of Conjunction. I don't know, I just lost it. Okay, so after the chapter of natural separation by which the elements of our stone deserved be, the chapter here followeth of secret conjunction, which nature's repugnant joineth to perfect unity, and so them knitteth that none from other may flee. When they by fire shall be examinate, so they be together surely conjugate. Once again, I will take just a minute to point out that I have already pointed out this process. What I am discovering as we go along is that this is a confirmation for things that I have already outlined. I did not have this particular knowledge before I wrote this book, but almost all of the things that are contained in this book are indeed contained in this document. I am receiving a lot of confirmation bias, right? There's a lot of me finding exactly what I am looking for. There's not a lot of the opposing arguments so far. And so this is an exercise in really verifying what I've already discovered. This is, to me, going to be describing the process of unification, right? There is a 3-step process by which you pull energy up, pull energy down, and then you pull energy together. You go up, you clear through your vices, you come down, you clear through the virtues. You come together balancing and making sure that you are in balance. You do that through the spirit, right? It is a psychological and physiological process. You are moving the energies and concentrating upon the thing. And so it is using the fire, when by fire they shall be examinate. That to me is exactly what I would expect to see. And then, so they together surely conjugate. There is 2 sides of each one of these coins. This is love and wrath. The balance between them would be making them conjugate. And so once again, this is exactly what I would expect to see from someone who actually knew what they were talking about. Back to the text. And therefore philosophers giveth this definition, saying thus: conjunction is naught else but of diversed qualities a copulation, or of principles a coequation, as others tells, but some with mercury, which the apothecaries sells. But some with mercury, which the apothecary sells. All right, now, mercury that can be sold is not the spiritual mercury, but instead there is the spiritual mercury, which is the symbol for self. It is the symbol for your soul, the deciding agent within you. Metalleth bodies which cannot divide their matter, and therefore they step aside. For unto time the soil be separate, and cleansed from his original sin. Original sin is a ridiculous concept that has no base in actual fact. If that is confusing to you, I suggest that you fall back to the unconventional Bible study, in which we discuss that in some limited detail. We have discussed it elsewhere in greater detail, but Genesis will definitely get you good and started. Once again, the unconventional Bible study. Original sin is a stupid idea. With the water and purely spiritualizate. Wow. Okay, let's hit it from the top again. For unto time the soil be separate and cleansed from his original sin. With the water and purely spiritualizate. Thy true conjunction may never begin. All right, so again, in the concept of there is original sin, which is not a thing, but if there was, what would be considered the original sin? The vice side of the index, right? The wrath, lust, gluttony, greed, right? Each one of these vice sides would be conceptualized as original sin. It's not. You have the capacity for both of them at exactly the same time, right? You have the capacity for wrath. You have the capacity for love. Therefore, you are not predisposed towards one. You have the choice between two. Original sin is a stupid concept for a lot of different reasons. Then, of the corporeal part and of the spiritual. Again, a double process. The soul conjunction shall cause perpetual. Again, what you are doing here in the process that I described is a soul conjunction. It is bringing into accordance your balance between your virtues and your vices. Of two conjunctions, philosophers dimension make. Again, confirmation bias. Two conjunctions. You go up with the vices, you come down with the virtues. Right? The third step, you've already made the conjunction, right? You are checking the balance. Gross when the body with Mercury is reincended. But let heat pass, and to the second tent thou take, which, as I said, is after separation celebrate, in which the parties be left, which left to colligate, and so promoted unto most perfect temperance. Then never after may be among them repugnance. Some of this terminology can absolutely be applied both to the physical alchemy and the spiritual alchemy. We have already, in the past studies from this particular section, seen again that this is primarily dealing with the spiritual side of things. It does give the terminology and some of the conditions for the physical alchemy, but it is quite explicit in the text that it is not really talking about that. Thus causeth separation, true conjunction to be had, of water, air, earth, and fire, and that every element may into other be lad, and so abide forever to thy desire. Do as done labors with clay and mire, temper them thick, and make them not too thin, for so up to drying thou shalt the rather win. But manners there be of this conjunction three steps, up, down, and together. You're right. The first is called by the philosophers diptative, between the agent and the patient, which must be male and female, mercury and sulfur vivae. Now, here's one of those problems with terminology that we have clarified through this study and the one with Young. Right. Mercury has been misrepresented in many ways. Mercury and sulfur represent two different things, not male and female. Both the masculine and the feminine fire agent, the agent of change, is sulfur. There is white sulfur, there is red or black sulfur. Both of those are representatives of the spirit. Now, there is even white, black, and red, right? White would be the top masculine power, black would be the bottom feminine power, and the conjunction of the two is referred to as red. There is negredo, where you bring up the vices, there is albedo, where you bring down the virtues, and then there is rubedo, which is the joining together of the two into conjunction in the heart, which is the retort. I mean, that has been made plain through the studies that we have done. But it is referred to wrong several times inside of the study. Instead of Mercury, this could be Mercurius, which represents both the masculine and the feminine at the same time, or it could be referred to as white sulfur and black sulfur, which is referring to the same thing. Referring to it as Mercury is referring to it in the wrong way. Mercury is the part that fills the vessel, right? Not the part that makes the vessel move, but the part that makes the decisions. It fills the inside of the vessel. You are not the vessel, you are the thing inside of it. And what is inside of it is your soul, the individualized piece of divinity that has been assigned to this navigation device. That is the representative of Mercury, the quicksilver, the part that can change its mind. Sulfur is the part that enables it. It is the Holy Spirit in action. Both in stasis and in action, right? Feminine is going to be stasis, action is going to be masculine. And so just so we're clear on the terms here in this short study, right? Each one of these is a different section. Each gate is going to be different. And so we have to hit it repeatedly. I don't really care for that, right? But if I make them too long, nobody's going to watch them. Like, nobody's really watching this anyway. So it's really just reading into the record for my benefit more than anything else. And I don't blame you. Like, I really do not blame people for, like, if you're watching this, I'm not talking to you, but I don't blame people for not being interested in this. Right? This is a 400-year-old document written in Old English, and it is me struggling to translate it and clarify it. There is no real reason to do so. Right? There's no real reason to watch me do this. I appreciate you doing it, but this is more about spreading the knowledge, getting it into the record, and making, not necessarily making sure, but checking to see if it goes along with what I believed, right? That was why we did this study, because when we were doing Jung, it was like, this book seems like it has some good stuff, and it does. So, all right, back to the text. Male and female, Mercury and sulfur 5. Now, sulfur vivae is the sulfur of life, right? Life is vivae. And so that can be the thing that makes life happen, right? Sulfur, the spirit, is the part that makes you breathe when you're asleep. It keeps your heart beating. It changes your food into fuel. All of those things, that is the spirit acting outside of your direct will. That is life. Matter and form, thin and thick, to thrive. Now, this reference to thin and thick, we've got it like 3 times, I think, so far. At least twice, but I think it was 3. That is going to represent the virtues and the vices, right? Thin is on one side of that matrix, thick is on the other side. It is not necessarily apparent which one is which. I would assume that thick is going to be the sin side, the vice side, and thin is going to be the other side because it is easier to deal with, right? But that is just me purely speculating. This lesson will help thee, without any doubt, our conjunction truly to bring about. The second manner is called triptative, which is conjunction made of things 3, of body, soul, and spirit, till they not strive, which trinity must be brought to perfect unity. For as the soul to the spirit, the bond must be. Right to the body, the soul to him must knit. Out of thy mind, let not this lesson flit. We have already hit this, right? The triptative, there's going to be 3. Well, there is 3 steps in the process, right? It is a conjunctive process. You go up, you clarify, negretto. You come down, you purify, albedo. You come up and down into the retort, which is the heart, and bring into conjunction through balance all of the different points. It is a 3-step process. You can even look at it, body, soul, and spirit. If you are going up the stack, you are dealing with the body side of things. If you are coming down the stack, you're dealing with the soul side of things. And if you are in conjunction, putting it out into the world, you're dealing with the spirit part of things. And so it is indeed a trinity process of body, mind, and spirit. And so again, I'm in perfect accordance with this, right? The terminology is not exactly as I would place it, but there is 400 years of separation. So the third manner, and also the last of all, 4 elements together which joineth to abide. Tetrapative continentally philosophers doth heat call, and specially Guido de Montaigne, whose fame goeth, and therefore the most laudable manner, this tide, wide. In our conjunction 4 elements must be aggregate, in due proportion first, which asunder were separate. All right, now this, right, there is 4 elements. We have talked about this before. There is the quaternity, right? Earth, air, water, fire. Not necessarily in that order, but they do represent things, right? Earth represents the body. It is the temple. It is the salt. Mercury and air represent the soul. It is the thing which fills the vessel and makes the decisions. And then you have the dual nature of sulfur, right? There is the masculine and the feminine. If you look at the masculine side, the white burning fire, that is going to be referred to most often as fire. If you look at the feminine side, it is viewed in a different light. It is from which things are made. And so that is going to be the correlative for water. And so if you are bringing all 4 of those elements together, your soul, your body, and the 2 sides of the spirit, you are doing exactly what I tell you to do in this book. And so once again, I am in accordance with what is written. Right, now, I don't know Guido de Montano. That is maybe worth looking at. I don't know that I would be able to pull a reference, and I will probably forget to try. Remind me, and I might, right? We'll put it on the list. Therefore, like as the woman hath veins 15, but man 5 to the act of her fecundity. What? Okay, now this, what? Therefore, like as the woman hath veins 15, the man but 5 to the act of her fecundity, requireth in our conjunction first, I mean, so must the man our son have of his water 3, and 9 his wife, which 3 to him must be. Then like which like will joy have for to dwell, more of conjunction me needeth not to tell. All right, so there are 8 steps, right? Bear with me, this is speculative. There are 8 steps up, there are 8 steps down. If you add them together, that comes to 16, right? That is close to 15. Man, but 5. Now, I don't see it. I do not see where this differentiation between the veins is going to be. This might be a reference to the Kabbalah, the tree of life or knowledge or wisdom or whatever you want to refer to it as. We did a brief study of that with Jason from Green Country Agroforestry, where we discovered that the tree is not all that reliable, right? It can be used. There are all kinds of tools you can use. It's just not the most effective way to go about the situation. There is much better ways to conceptualize the tree. Having the actual dipoles, that makes a big difference. There is no dipole between wisdom and intelligence. They are different parts of the same function. Intelligence is the capacity to understand. Wisdom is putting it into practice, right? They're inseparable. They're not 2 sides of a coin. Therefore, they are not opposites on the tree. It is somewhat understandable why the patriarchs decided to represent this in this particular way. And if you dig at any point in time, you can figure that out. I'm not even going to dig into that. We'll deal with that at another point in time. But for the most part, this does not make any sense to me, right? Everything else has made sense. This is a key that I am missing. It may be a non-functional key. There have been a few of those. Or it might be one that fits perfectly, right? To me, there is 8 steps up, 8 steps down, that equals 16. If you go with the 8 steps to conjunction, that makes 24. At no point in my process is there only 12 gates. There is in here, right? These steps that they are taking, they are definitely there, right? The different way that it is described is not the way that I would do it. And so for me, there are 8. For them, there are 12. That is a difference in terminology more than function. I really do not see, however, what this has to do with anything at all, right? 15 veins, that has got to be pathways, right? That's got to be energy manipulation type stuff. But if you add them together, you only get 20, and then you're still missing 4 from the 3-step process. And so I'm just missing the key. And I want to make it clear, right? I spend a lot of time talking about this I understand, this I get, this I make sense to me. When it doesn't, I need to be equally as transparent that it doesn't, and this just doesn't. Right? There does not appear to be anything in here that has any correlation with it at all. There is, right, 3, right, 3 makes sense, but none of the rest of this, right? So must the man or son have of his water 3. That is an arbitrary split. It does not make any sense whatsoever to me. Then like which like will joy have for to dwell. Now that kind of makes sense, right? Like and like is the two sides in the dipole meeting in balance, right? Not that they are the same thing, but they are met in balance. The balance between love and wrath, for instance, is kindness. All right. This chapter I will conclude right soon, therefore. Gross conjunction charging thee to make but one, for seldom have strumpets children of them I bore. And so thou shalt never come by our stone, without you suffer the woman to lie alone. To lig alone? After she hath conceived of the man, the matrix of her sight from all other than. For such as addeth evermore crude to crude, opening their vessels and letting their matter kill, the sperm conceiveth, they north not, but delude themselves, and spilleth their work every delay. If thou therefore lived for to do well, close up the matrix and norest to feed, with heat continual and temperate, if thou wilt speed. And when thy vessel hath stond by months 5, and clouds and eclipses be past each one, that light appearing increased, thy heat then believe, till bright and shining in whiteness be thy stone. Then may thou open thy glass unknown, and feed thy child, which is then a boar, with milk and meat, more and more. Okay, this is obviously not talking about an actual child. Now we are returning somewhat to things that I can talk about. Right? Adding crude to crude, obviously you're not going to receive purification from that, right? But if you open your vessel and letting the matter kill, I don't know what that is. Right now, the sperm conceived, they nourisheth not, but delude themselves and spilleth their work every delay. If thou therefore lived for to do well, close up the matrix and nourisheth the feed, with continual and temperate, if thou wilt speed. Right? This is internal reflection. Right? That's what this is. This is the process of the purification through self with intention. Right? This is using the fire to bring the balance. It is again couched in some gross language, and gross is not nasty but physical. And when thy vessel hath stand by months 5, and clouds and eclipses be past each one, that light appearing increased, thy heat then blive, till then blow maybe, till bright and shining in whiteness be thy stone. Now the first part of that process, you are pulling the energies up from the void, the feminine, the negredo, and you are bringing it up to the whiteness, the masculine, the albedo, right? When you do that, you are whitening the stone. You are causing it to be bright and shining even. When you come back down, you temper it a little bit. When it goes all the way up, it shines with brightness. You are getting rid of the vices. When you come back down, it darkens a little bit. You are refining your virtues. And so this is something that I can understand. Even if I didn't have the key before, this part makes sense. Then may thou open thy glass anon and feed thy child, right? That is the secondary part of the process. For now both moist and dry be so contemporate, that of the water earth have received impression, which never asunder after that may be separate, and right so water to earth have given ingression, that both together to dwell hath made profession, and water of earth have purchased retentive, they fower be made, one never more to strive. And in two things all our intent doth hinge, in dry and moist, which be contrarious to, in dry that heat the moist to fixing bring, in moist that heat give liquefaction the earth unto. This is further, right, we talked about the quaternity, the matrix, right? The axis is hot and dry, right? That is fire, and that is going to be air. Fire and air, or no, fire and water, right? The two sides of the spirit. Water is going to be the moist, fire is going to be the dry. You bring them both to the earth, which would be at the bottom, and to the air, which would be at the top, right? And so this does make sense. And moist, that heat give liquefaction, right? That is to the earth. That is both the moist, the feminine, and the heat, the masculine, going into the earth, the body, right? The same will be it will be the same for the soul. A temperament not so thick as the body is, nother so thin as water without mist. Again, the thick and the thin is going to be the virtue vice matrix, in my understanding. Losing and knitting, therefore, be principles. 2. Of this hard science and poles most principle, how be heat that other principles be many mo, and shining fannels which show I shall, proceed therefore unto another wall. Of this strong castle of our wisdom, that enter at the fifth gate thou may come. And that is going to bring us to the end, right? Lofting, losing, and knitting, therefore, be principles 2 of this hard science and poles most principle. Now, that is 2 times 8, right? Losing and knitting, therefore, the principles is going to be the bipole of the virtue vice matrix. The poles most principle. Each one of those poles is a principal pole, right? The base representing love and wrath is one principal pole. The next principal pole is the pole between lust and chastity. The next one is gluttony and denial. There are 8 poles. And so, again, I am in accordance with what is here. And if you do this, this is saying that you are ready for the 5th gate. I am not in necessarily disagreement. We have not read through all of the gates, so I don't even know what does it say the next one is. Putrefaction. That is going to be something dealing with making sure your vices are correct, right? Or even possibly balancing your virtues by putting in a little bit of nastiness, right? There is always light in the darkness. There is always darkness in the light. There is a balance to be stricken between the two. Appropriate use of the virtues and vices is the goal of what we are doing here. And so, let me find my cursor so that I can transition over and we can go ahead and wrap this up. That's going to bring us to the end of separation, or it wasn't separation. What is it? Calcination, or conjunction. That's going to bring us to the end of conjunction. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic. I understand that I hold some unconventional beliefs, and I do have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those. It is not intentional, but it is not something that I apologize for. Once again, I do not have a whole lot to add to this. This is an ongoing study where we are finding more of what I expect to see than things that are outside of that. In this particular one, there was a key I was missing. I don't know what it is. Maybe we will get that key as we further investigate. But the 15 veins and the 5 veins makes no sense to me whatsoever. It has no bearing in anything that I know to be true. It may have some bearing to a true thing that I do not know. However, and I am always willing to be corrected on true things that I do not know. So if you know what the key is, by all means, drop it in the box down below. And while you do so, if you like what I'm doing over here, let me know. Give me a like, a share, a follow. Throw me a comment. If you agree or disagree, or if you have a key that I am missing, put it in the box down below. And if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If you really like what I'm doing over here, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership or picking up a copy of my book. You might want to wait right there in about 2 weeks, maybe 3. I will be having the 2nd edition coming out. We are in final hard edits, and while this will absolutely get you there, the other one may be able to get you there a little bit more efficiently, and that is, after all, the entire goal of this. And so, if you like what I'm doing, let me know. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pittstake. Peace.